Hello and welcome, it's the Linking X2. Now we're back at it with Game 5 of this year's MSI final between Pentakill and RNG, as you know. Wow, what a banger this year's has been. Pentakill now equalizing with game number 4 and Ghost popping off with an insane Pentakill. Yeah, you don't see this one every other day. Let's dive right into the last draft here. So, what we're going to see, RNG and Pentakill switching sides for the final time. And yeah, we're probably not going to see so much adaptation. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, Pentakill banning here the Renekton on their side. I have a bit been underestimating the pick. I mean, Showmaker, like showing off with the mid lane Renekton. Yes, the Rise pick into it was probably not the smartest one, but well, Pentankill's top side, the Khan, Canyon and Showmaker trio really popping off with their early aggressive picks, contributing their lead, snowballing each other, and then yeah, pushing that advantage overall to the game state of the entire map. Also had good luck with the Drakes. It would be a fucking tragedy if they would have gotten a Cloud Drake at the end. So yeah, on the other side here, RNG's banned super standard. We have seen these three being banned on RNG side for the entire tournament. So for the entire series, so that's nothing special. But what is super special, again, I'm a bit late with this. These picks keep spoiling me, man. The Varus has now come through. RNG here opting to ban the Thresh now on the blue side, and usually that wasn't an issue in past matches here because Pentakill has then been banning the Varus themselves. Now Varus comes through and RNG seemingly valuing the Udyr way more. I don't even think Canyon would pick away the Udyr. So yeah, that's a huge issue. Varus obviously super powerful. Either options are fine for him due to the state of the game, right? Attack speed Varus with the very strong AD carry items at the moment can shred through tanks. Yeah, very smooth in the way he can deal with them, and has some protection with his ultimate and some setup as well. He's being paired up with the Rumble, so that's a very fearsome combination. Pentakill has I think, yeah, they used this combination to dumpster Mad Lions completely yesterday. The long range non-committal power these two have from early on even to late game, right? The way items have been changed, and especially Rumble has been hampered with. They're still very powerful and strong in later stages even. Short view on RNG side here. What have they drafted? What have they picked? Udyr, Kai'Sa, nothing new. And well, they seem to identify that these picks are not the issue, which I have to agree on, right? The performance was not the greatest issue, but I feel like other champions, like other AD carries, could have dealt with Pentankill's comp way better, right? Kai'Sa, what is she going to do? Step up to a wave that is being pushed in by a Tristana, by an Aatrox and an Renekton. She is way too close to them and just gets shredded to pieces by them. So a long range AD carry would have been way better here. But Gala going back to his comfort. I mean, it's game 5, man. Everyone's going to pick what they want, what they believe are their best chances to win. And it's maybe not the most logical thing, but at least it is something they have been they are comfortable on. And let's hope that it's at least not too messy. Pentakill here not picking some random stuff like Nocturne Blind. They're picking the Tahm obviously addressing the range and mobility issue, mobility issue here, of the Varus. There's no Thresh for him, so now he gets the Tahm. Usually, in a game 6 afterwards, you would see Thresh and Tahm being banned. But now Tahm really a nice add-on for him. Not only because of the general mobility issue Varus has, but also look at all the dive. So all the dive comes in, Tahm is like, yeah. And then no one cares, right? There will be probably a strong mid lane AP threat from Showmaker. So if they pile in onto Ghost on his Varus, then there's a Rumble and maybe a Syndra, whatever, in the mid lane, and they can deal then with RNG. Because even though these champions dive in, they're not really tanky. Yes, Stridebreaker exists, but it's still a Nocturne, so we have to wait and see how Gear is protecting their carries. Shortly here the bans, Silas again, Nocturne ult, that's at least something to steal, but these two ults are meaningless. Also, he would not really like to fit in these. So Gear he has now two options how they approach further picks. They can either double down with long range power, like probably something like Jace for Khan would really fit in here well, also considering his comfort. And then, like I mentioned, the Syndra, right? So they could go with more long range, more non-committal stuff, or they could say, okay, we have these long range champions, they poke and one shot from 200 miles, and then we can follow up with Engage. That would be Silas, that would be Gnar. So these are two options they could go for. Both are somewhat viable, but I would really like the double down approach because, well, these champions are also more in their wheelhouse, right? Syndra and Jace, like, is something more RNG than that? I don't care. I'm a fool. On the other side, Rel and the Nautilus, obviously leaving the Leona open to be picked here, so that won't be too much of a surprise. Leona into Tahm Kench, not really good for her. And these options, right, this would be a more AoE engaged type of champion, and Alistair, by the way, does also exist, would be a better option. And the Nautilus here, obviously Ming's comfort. So this is probably going to be the Jace. And then, so what can we expect here from, this will be Jace 100%. Don't make, yeah. And RNG probably now going to lock in something like the Leona and the Orianna. Unless, okay, they go with the Nocturne mid. Nocturne mid into a potential, what could that be? A potential Syndra and Rumble not really liking each other, so maybe something like this hovered Aatrox for top and Jace mid lane could be something. Aatrox against the AP Gragas. Usually not the best pick, but Gragas has been nerfed a bit, lost a bit of armor and regeneration, so the matchup has been a bit better now for Aatrox, and Khan has shown that he's indeed comfortable with this matchup, even though he has the he had the blue side advantage, which like it's a tiny thing, right? People are probably not going to notice this in the way they play, but the map layout obviously and the terrain layout that is behind this is there. It's always there. And obviously, wow, I should have mentioned that earlier. We see here a red side Varus. Oh, Momo. Kia's comp looking scary, man. Like red side Varus, red side Rumble. Is red side Rumble stronger? Yeah, should be. This obviously has to do with the terrain again, right? What else would there be an advantage of, like camera angle? Yes, obviously that's the one of the reasons why blue side is better usually. But from the terrain, like ignoring like camera angles and perspectives, red side has like quite an unusual terrain that can be defended and skirmished in quite easily for the red side team. So long range abilities and AoE abilities in these jungle corridors, especially the one at the top, right, where the Baron is, give the red side or like certain red side, certain champions an advantage on the red side, like the Rumble, Jace in some spots as well, right? He suffers a bit from the top lane layout, but here this is mid lane Jace, so that's that. So Aatrox is way more fine on the top side than the Jace would be. Switching now our perspective, let's look at RNG. So another curveball, right? This time the Nocturne is in mid lane. Nocturne mid lane, I mentioned, that is not his primary role where he's super good at or where he is succeeding because of the nature of the shorter lane. Also here, his trading patterns against range champions is quite iffy. Again, more so, like even more so due to the shorter lane. My god. I'm a bit too hyped, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to Down and Kia winning this one, but let's talk about the bot lane matchup shortly, because this is the first time one of the first times we have not seen Tristana Kai'Sa. So yeah, a bit of diversity there. So what we're going to expect, it's tricky. It's really tricky. It depends on who gets to lane first. because the level 2 setup and wave setup is very important here for this one. So the Tahm Kench and Varus lane can usually use their range and their high burst damage, or like the setup for burst damage, right? Easier than the other side, right? They like non-committal high damage. Maybe that's a way to phrase it, right? Leona, Kai'Sa, they have to get really close, really get into the minion wave to trade effectively and make use of most of their damage. Which, if they do, they have a shit ton of damage, right? Leona base damage. We've talked about this millions times. I'm not going to waste your time again with this. So it really depends on who gets the lane control first. Because, right, if Varus has to hit the minions and not hit Kai'Sa, then his range advantage is not really all that useful. But still, he's always outranging her. His early items with the lethality will be very effective here. Because I guess he will go lethality. If this would be a tank Gragas, you could argue a bit more against the 3 tanks, or like 3 Bruiser-esque tanks with the Nocturne also. You could argue a bit more for the attack speed variance. Maybe you could argue for this looking at his teammates, but like I think the poke is very important here, and they drafted for poke and not for an attack speed Varus. The attack speed Varus could be a bit more of an insurance later on. So actually I think it's flexible, but usually the lethality Varus is the stronger pick in most cases, and obviously he has the stronger early and mid game in comparison, like by a lot. So if no one cares looking to again steamroll RNG, that's the way to go. Overall, which comp would I prefer? I would prefer down 1 Gears. Look at the champions. They've got Varus, who is a very strong bot laner at the moment, and he has a favorable matchup. Yes, he can be assassinated, but he has other threats in his team that can then pounce on Kai'Sa, hopefully, not like game 3. And he has a Tahm Kench to back him up. Looking at other mid matchups, top lane should be again fine for Khan, even though the matchup is a bit more neutral. Khan has shown that he is quite handily doing fine there. Mid lane as well, talked about that quite a bit, and the jungle matchup. Yes, theoretically people assume Udyr wins against Rumble, but that's not really the case. Rumble just wins against everything, in my opinion at least. I think he's super strong, and if he's being piloted correctly, there's little other champions can do really against him, especially considering the other jungle champions. Morgana offers a bit more tools than Rumble, but Rumble really offers a strong hammer that can like break everything apart, while Morgana has an entire toolkit. Maybe you could look at it like that. So yeah, I really like down 1 Gears champions way more. The chaos and dive threat from Kai'Sa and Nocturne can be very strong, right? Like if they snowball, they can just pounce everywhere, and Tahm Kench can only defend one, and only the one he's next with. So if Showmaker is alone somewhere, or like Canyon gets caught in the jungle, that could be a setup to pounce for RNG. Scaling wise, even though RNG has like decent champions here, scaling, they do scale, but relative to down 1 Gear, their scaling is poorer, and scaling also is more relevant later. Like scaling in later stages, right, is intertwined with team fighting. In most cases, right? Unless you go split pushing, but split pushing is dead. So yeah, in terms of scaling relative to team fighting, down 1 Gear obviously has way better team fight tools and can approach team fights very easily. Yes, they're more vision reliant and have fewer abilities to face check, but they have tools to check brushes, and then they also have some frontline. It's not like Aatrox is way tankier than Nocturne was in like a game. I think game 3 was that, where they picked Nocturne as their frontliner. So yeah, this is a bit more safer. But wow, this will be the end of MSI. Has been a blast. So let's go to the end screen for all that stuff. It really has been a blast. Like, long month, lots of videos. Hope you enjoyed most of them, if you've seen some of them at least. And yeah, this final game, wow, it will be a banger, very explosive drafts. And yeah, that's it for my live reaction content for this year's MSI. If you have any questions or any comments you want to make, anything, right? Please post it down in the comments down below. I'm really looking forward to your feedback on today's videos and overall on the MSI content. If you liked anything of that, if you want to see something like that for future tournaments like the LCK, LCS, LEC, whatever, be sure to post that down in the comments as well. And if you have any questions about the topics I talked about, maybe I was a bit unclear in there and here and there, maybe I've skipped over a few things, yeah, just ask away in the comments as well. So we will see each other on the next scheduled day, but yeah, let's now all enjoy this final game of hopefully some great League of Legends. So yeah, see you around. Bye.